So I'm in Hastings with...
No, you're not.
I'm in St Leonards. What's the difference between St Leonards
So,
there is no difference.
We're going to do this. Let's do it properly. We're not in Hastings. We're St Leonards, Warrior Square.
We're in St Leonards, Warrior Square.
Hastings is a bit further along the coast. Not far, but a little bit further along.
What is the difference before we start?
About 1.5 miles. Yeah, about 1.5 miles.
This is the extension of Hastings, isn't it? When it expanded after the railway.
It's what they call spillage. Yeah, this exactly.
Oh, right.
Exactly.
It's like Victorian overspill.
And it was to allow you to get down to St Leonards. You know, with the Burton St Leonards, the Regency. Iain can tell you all about that with Marine Court.
The Iain there is Iain Sinclair, but we won't.
Iain Sinclair and Warrior Gardens, but we'll do some of that later on.
Andrew Kötting is considered one of Britain's most distinctive and original filmmakers. The word visionary is often attached to his work. His debut feature Gallivant, released in 1996, won numerous awards and ranks in lists of great British films. He's developed a particularly idiosyncratic form of travelogue that captures the eccentricities and underlying magic of Britain. He often collaborates with the writer Iain Sinclair and his daughter Edith. He's been a huge inspiration for me ever since I saw Gallivant at the Sydney Film Festival in 1997. But more of that in a moment. So today was a particularly special journey for me.
And we're going to head down towards the seafront via Layla's studio, my wife, the fiddlesmith. She's just down here on the right, so we'll pass her. The downstairs used to be called Claremont Studios, and Eden and I had one of our first ever big joint shows. That was 16 years ago, just after we moved down. My daughter, who I now collaborate with a lot. And maybe later on when we go to the studio, you'll be able to see some of the stuff that we've been working on. So yeah, that's a hub, that's a bit of a nerve centre. Railway Tavern, a very old one, this one. Used to kick off on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. If you need a little bit of fracas, then that's the place to go.
Bit of local colour.
Yeah, a bit local colour.
For context, Andrew made an amazing film, Gallivant, 25 years ago this year.
Yeah.
And it was watching Gallivant at the Sydney Film Festival that made me go out and buy a Super 8 camera and decide to start making films rather than just trying to write a fight.
And hence our relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Thereafter.
And it leads on to that. So this is like a really important walk and talk. It's a really important video for me. I've tried not to overwhelm it with significance because otherwise I wouldn't be able to film. But just so you understand the significance of this, it's not just a stroll around the amazingly historic town of Hastings, 1066 and all that, which is actually...
Which will come later because that's 1.5 miles along the coast.
Right, Senlock Hill, isn't it?
No, this is St Leonards-on-Sea, mate. Not Senlock Hill is Battle.
Hastings.
But Battle is a little bit further. That's more inland.
Yeah, that's where the actual... Norman conquests took place. But so it's a double significance, and hopefully we'll talk a little bit about Gallivant and stuff, and the sea and the coast,
sea, the swimming,
and weird journeys, psychogeography.
Marine Court, Iain Sinclair, of course. Definitely John Rogers will feature at some point.
All of that.
I think he's important. But up this alleyway, I've not been here before. This is just off the King's Road here in St Leonards. Is the back of the town block you were talking about, which is an office block. But you'd never imagine. They called it kind of drug alley, but it's all gone now. It's changed now, and you just get a little bit of Mews with the 70s tower block, which used to be council offices. So that, but you look at that. I mean, I've literally only after 18 years of being down here, just discovered this little Mews. These are like Aladdin's caves, and again going back to when Layla and I first got together, we had a market stall in Camden and one in Greenwich. We were casuals, but we'd come down here to charity shops to buy all the stuff. And this King's Road, it's got about 6 charity shops in it now, but they're slowly making way for eateries and sleeperies, pop-up micro-breweries, micro-bakers. It's changing a lot. We're not quite there with Hackney, but it's headed in that direction. But as you can see, there's very little. You've got no Boots, you've got no high street. They're all kind of independent shop owners, which gives it a really lovely feel. And it does. The only other place, having come from Deptford, it's exactly the same Deptford High Street. You walk down, and I think the only one you've got is Iceland. So it's quite nice to have this same kind of vibe. The seaside lays just at the end of this road, really. Butchers, you've got to give him a credit. That butcher in there, right? He's brilliant. That bloke. He's fantastic. Sausages, bacon, he does everything. And good eggs.
So you moved down from Deptford?
Yeah, we were in Deptford for 20 years on the Pepys estate. We did one of these, in fact, with Iain, the three of us, and I think we dropped in on a little cafe down in just off Surrey Docks, Surrey Quays as it then became known. But yeah, 20 years in Deptford on the Pepys estate.
And what brought you down here?
It was actually Eden's failing schools, the special needs schools in South East London. They were trying to, I think they're trying to do the right thing for the kids, trying to integrate them, get them kind of into mainstream, but they didn't have the support or the budget. So they ended up being kind of in holding pens. And the last, when she got to 16, it was a real kind of travesty. My sister had moved down here, my brother had moved down here. We'd always lived within a kind of a half-mile triangulation of each other, and so we knew that we had some support for her because they'd always been at that stage, committed to helping us, and vice versa, they had kids, so it kind of grew out of that really. But we kind of tumbled out of London and found this place, and the rest was really history. It was Eden. There's the sea.
The sea name here, Old England. That people, when they write about your films, they say they capture a particular type of Englishness.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the other pub earlier on, but if you want a good old fisticuff, have you ever seen the film The Fight Club?
Yeah.
Just pop in there, again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, and there'll be, something will kick off. Here we go. Almost on cue, but not quite. That's always been, as you can see, no children allowed on premises after 6 p.m. because they get roped into the fighting. As my friend here, he's making a little film of the local area, and he just said, "Who's your hairdresser?" And I said, "It's you." It's my local hairdresser. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Was it 2 days ago I was in here? Was it? I think it was a Friday, wasn't it? He's very, very good. He knows exactly what he's doing. And you've got how many languages? 4? More than 4. Yeah. Anyhow, stay well. See ya. I'm just going to introduce you. This is the guy that does the best fish and chips in. He's closed at the moment, but he does. He started doing these grilled fish,
right,
with olive oil and garlic. I just wanted to say hello. He's making a little film, and I wanted to explain that you do the best fish and chips in the whole of St Leonards-on-Sea, and he's the man that does it. And what's your speciality? It's grilled
fish
with olive oil and chili and garlic. That's the stuff.
Vinegar,
and he makes his own vinegar as well.
And we do the deep roast at the moment as well on Friday and Saturday.
And would you give him a discount if he's from London?
Of course. Yeah.
But not much. Don't give him a lot.
No, anytime. You're more than welcome.
That's it. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Where's his brother?
He's at home.
He's at home. Oh, good to see you. Yeah.
Good to see you too.
Take care.
Cheers.
It's incredible because we've just come out of the station and I've met Andrew's butcher, hairdresser and the chippy. I mean, this is...
And now this is the bookshop that Layla, we bumped into Layla just briefly. But this was Iain, one of Iain's haunts. He would come down here when we first arrived. It was, you couldn't look in the window through books spilling out of the glass on the floor, all kinds of... The guy had been here, I think, 30, 40 years. But if you come and look in through here, John, you see this amazingly kind of... Shishi, can you see the staircase going up?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty grand, isn't it? But you would never have known that existed because the books were from floor to ceiling. On these shelves either side, I don't know if you can see them through the in the dim light, but even the carpet. But yeah, he kind of lived and died for books, and in fact, in the end, I think he'd been dead for 3 days upstairs, but they couldn't get to him. The smell was what alerted somebody had gone into the co-op or come over the roads opposite, and there's the smell that indicated that perhaps something wasn't quite right. So in the end they had to, the fire brigade came in, opened up the window above here and literally winched him out. He was massive as well. I mean, he barely moved. He must have been 22, 23 stone. But one of those amazing kind of eccentric, one of those dealers that never really sold anything. Nothing really was for sale. at that point he buried himself in books.
Iain Sinclair was a book dealer. Until Iain was book dealing up until the publication of London Orbital, wasn't it?
Yeah, right up until then. I mean, also down to the Isle of Grain and around there, it was kind of like a secret society. You'd never let other people know where you're getting your supplies from. This is Chris, right? Every now and then he delivers mail, but most of his life he spends watching films or bloody reading. Yeah. Or he runs the Buddhists on the seafront. No, there's a little group of half a dozen on the seafront. On the seafront, on the beach.
Yeah, we go and sit and meditate on the beach on a Sunday morning.
So tell us about this bit, Chris. What's happening down there?
I've absolutely no idea. I don't know what's going on most of the time.
You've never delivered here before, have you?
We had Norman Street going into Saxon Street, right?
Yeah, So it's all it's all war. It's like a war zone, isn't it?
Well, it's got this incredibly fascinating history, which unfortunately I know nothing about.
Her knee. Again, the front will be straight along here quite often, just out of belligerent. This is an Iain Sinclair fact. In her skirts on the right hand side, you'll see just a nice little bullet hole. And I was always fascinated by that when I first came down. And Iain and I, back when we first met properly, we're doing what we're doing today. We just had a really big walk, and it was a kind of a gluing session.
Right.
And there it is.
Oh, bloody hell, yeah. Yeah.
From just by the other side of the pier, I come all the way down here, down to Marine Court and meet Iain, and we might go and have a gin and tonic, or I meet him at Marine Court, and then I swim down to Bexhill and the ferries for boats, and we walk back and have a gin and tonic after that. Either way, there's a gin and tonic involved.
What's this called, Andrew?
This is a sunrise.
A sunrise. What is it?
A goat ledge sunrise. It's haddock.
Haddock.
You'll have to ask. He's the designer to your left-hand side. Ask Will.
Will might not want to be on.
Will won't mind. He's used to it. Chloe's the second in command.
Haddock.
No.
Chili jam.
Poached egg. Because we're
fried egg.
Fried egg.
Yeah. And then charred mayo.
Oh my giddy arm.
Wow, thank you very much.
Oh my giddy arm.
Thank you. Chloe helped design this sandwich.
This was our kind of family, I guess, holiday resort, you know, along this coastline. Bexhill, Little Common, Hastings, St Leonards. It was always a really important bit of the world for me. It's getting cold now.
It is. It is.
It's actually blowing.
So we've retreated indoors. The weather's just too hostile out there. It's mad. So we've retreated back to Andrews, and then I think we're going to go for a little bit of a drive around St Leonards and Hastings, and then go to Andrew's studio. But seeing as like Gallivant is the reason I'm stood here holding a camera. I'm going to have a little chat with Andrew about Gallivant, about that magical, amazing, rarest of beasts, the the British road movie. Iain Sinclair said at the time that we don't do road movies because there's nowhere to go. But Gallivant is I'd say it's the ultimate English road movie. Andrew, for people who don't know Gallivant,
Yeah.
what is Gallivant? What was Gallivant?
Gallivant, the dictionary translation of the word, is to travel with members of the opposite sex in search of fun and enjoyment. Or maybe it was just enjoyment. But it was, I mean, I wasn't familiar, I was familiar with the ideas of kind of psychogeography, but it was just an excuse for a jolly around the whole coastline of the UK. And I think a lot of it came out of the fact that by then I'd spent maybe at least 10 years living in on and off in the French Pyrenees. And it was this, you need sometimes distance to be able to look back at a kind of the potential for or a subject to make work about. And I just loved the idea of, it was just kind of the audacity of circumnavigating the whole of the UK in a camper van, on a whim almost, but taking Gladys, my grandmother, and my daughter on this journey with me. And it was always designed to be a road movie, but I was very curious to, perhaps a bit like we've experienced this morning, just through happenstance and serendipity, blundering into people and then trying to weave them into a semblance of narrative. And that is, I guess, in terms of my methodology, has always been there. I like to go out into the world and encounter things, sounds, smells, people, and then reverse engineer afterwards some semblance of structure, which is what Stuart Lee always, he worked out very quickly. He said, well, what Kötting does, he just goes out there, he doesn't know what he's doing, and he comes back and reverse engineers kind of structure meaning into after the event. And it's true. I mean, I knew that the edit was going to take a long time. It's this sense of corralling that much material together. But it was, it's a technique that I guess I'm still working with now in the work that I made with Iain. Perhaps his writing process is very similar. He sets out, there's a kind of particular journey that he wants to go on. And then what happens on that journey informs the way in which the writing unfolds. And that's what I was doing with Gallivant, but in a very kind of naive way, because I had no experience of doing it. It was just conceptually I thought it could be done, and the film is flawed. It's kind of fissures of incompetence throughout it, but ultimately you forgive it. Well, even I've forgiven that after 25 years, because there's an ambition there which is kind of quite pure and quite it's a kind of, there's something, the folly of it is what I really respect. In hindsight, I think that might be somebody coming in now. You might even get to meet Eden. This is Eden.
Hi, Eden.
And Carol, do you want to be on film briefly? No, she's not going to be on film. But Carol is one of our dear friends, and Eden's one of her support workers. And what were you doing this morning? She's swimming. She was swimming with Gemma. You come back now, you've done yoga. And then you have your hot chocolate. It's a busy day on Monday, isn't it? Yeah. Should we take your coat off? You're going to have a biscuit?
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to get one that you made for Carol? You bought some other ones? Oh, you mean a digestive?
Yeah.
And how did you start working with Iain Sinclair? Because to other people, that was like, I remember when I heard you were doing something with Iain, which was offshore.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a psychogeographer's dream ticket. That's like all your dreams come true.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It happened really, earlier on today when we were walking, and I was telling you about this Marine Court, this is where Iain lives. I kind of knew of his work, obviously. He knew of my work because he wrote that amazing piece for Gallivant in the Sight and Sound. And then I knew that he had this bolt hole. He had a kind of hidey hole down here in St Leonards. And, he was in Marine Court. And then I actually plucked up courage, I guess, in a way to phone him. I think it might have been Gareth, probably Evans, that fixed it, got me his number. And this is pre-mobile. I mean, Iain won't use a mobile now anyhow. But I just phoned up and the number here in Marine Court. And we met on a Sunday and we walked for 2 hours and just gelled. It worked to me immediately. And then he used to carry me bags when I would swim, and then he witnessed offshore. I invited him along, and because he was here, it was really easy. And he just wrote something for the LRB, and it just grew out of that really, just a meeting. And I think, yeah, if we'd been in London, I probably wouldn't have made such an effort. It was only coming down here that I thought, well, yeah, we can walk and talk and see how we get on, and we just got on really well, very quickly. And so, yeah, we're just heading from St Leonards down towards the Warr Pavilion at Bexhill. And this area is transforming as we speak, really. All the
Is this Victorian or old?
It's all Regency. It's all Regency,
wow.
yeah. All this is Regency. Yeah. And then in a minute, there's a run which I think they are kind of Regency, but they would have been more cottages. There's a lots of quarrying that used to go on behind this. There's like the cliff face, and there's some quarries. Used to quarry a lot of sandstone. So yeah, just down here on the left behind the wall is where Edith Swanneck resides. We've got Edith Swanneck there. She's either cradling or garrotting King Harold, and this is where we ended up the Edith Walks project. And again, that's another one of the Ian's, he instigated it, bullied, cajoled, whatever the polite word is, into to us making it. So he always felt that it would be a nice idea to reconnect the ghost of King Harold and his body parts, which are meant to be buried in Waltham Abbey, with this sculpture, which had kind of, I mean, he always comes out with this lovely idea of, if you come and have a look, I mean, originally it was very polished marble, but it kind of looks like it's just been attacked. It's got some kind of strange syphilitic erosion going on. And there she is.
Who was Edith Swanneck?
She was the handfast maiden, i.e. I guess the pagan wife of King Harold, as in the Battle of Hastings 1066 King Harold. A complicated character, mythological character, a woman, probably, of course, that was never written into the annals of history to be written out. But you'd have to go to the Edith Walks website, or better still the film, to get that kind of information. Or the book is also available through www.andrewkötting.com. And this Christmas we're doing a 10% discount on all the merchandise. And yeah, in the wake of the project, this is the local Edith Swanneck Society was formed. A, we got the spotlights fixed, and B, we got a plaque. So there's your answer to, is it? It celebrates the moment at the end of the Battle of Hastings in 1066 when the remains of King Harold II, the last Anglo-Saxon king of England, were discovered and identified by his wife of 20 years, Edith Swanneck. But because they weren't married in a church, there was all this kind of skullduggery or controversy over, you know, in fact this sculpture used to be in the museum, and then it was kind of kicked out by some Christian, I think it was in the 70s or something, when they realised that they were preserving this harlot and King Harold. So she got demoted. Well, they both got demoted and abandoned here, and now the elements are taking their toll. But yeah, beautiful piece of work. In the mist on the horizon, normally from here you can see Dungeness Power Station as well on a good day, and straight out over the ocean there you get France again on a clear day. So, and a bit of dogging, should that be of any interest in the evenings.
This is Galley Hill.
Galley Hill, and it's kind of, you'd say it was Bexhill. We're kind of Bexhill looking back towards St Leonards.
What did driving around the coast of Britain tell you about the country, or teach you about the country?
It didn't teach me anything in particular, apart from the fact that it had been a 4 months or a journey well spent, and ultimately it kind of became a catalyst. I mean, you know this probably as much as I do, well, more than anybody that I know, that you know, you go out, you make journeys, you make walks, you engage with the world, you see the world, you experience the world, you kind of map the world in a way that it's very subjective. But that the irony, I think, sometimes of subjectivity is that it's universal. Is that once you get out there, what you experience is always going to be different, but everybody experiences different things, but they're all interconnected. And I think that's what I loved about Gallivant. is that I'm just going to let this guy pass that. But straight ahead there, the kind of beautiful lilac and pink, that's the Warr Pavilion. So we're heading to the place where it all began. But this has changed. I mean, when we did Gallivant, the opening sequence, this is like the new bandstand, but it was, I don't, you know, probably do you remember that it's like the old bandstand, and there were deck chairs, and Gladys and Edith were there, and we're talking about, well, in fact, the opening line of the film is, when your daddy was a little boy, girl, she checks herself and realises that she gets it all wrong. But that all took place here, and then they got quite a substantial grant to revamp it. But it still brings back a lot of amazing memories, you know, when I'm here.
Why did you choose to start Gallivant from here?
This, again, I think I mentioned earlier on, this where Gladys and Albert, my grandmother and my grandfather, would always bring us down to Little Common. They would hire a caravan, which is inland from here, maybe 10 miles. And it was just the nearest, you get a nice cup of tea in the Warr Pavilion, and you get a nice buttered scone. And the other thing they do is lots of jam. So we'd come here for the jam, the scones, and the teas. It's just that it happened to be a place where it was very child friendly, beaches, deck chairs, you know, all that seaside paraphernalia. And it was, I guess, 10-minute ride in the car. Occasionally we'd go down to the Lido in Bulverhyde, again where we were earlier on, and if they really wanted to push the boat out, we'd go carry to Hastings onto the pier. But they never had a lot of money, and kids on the pier, one of the first things you want to do is start having a go on all the games. And the brilliant thing about the Warr Pavilion, this is back in, that would have been the early 70s, is that there wasn't a lot going on. Most of it was closed, you know. You'd have the brass band, and you'd have a cafeteria, and the cafeteria, I mean, all the food, you could get a 3-course, I think, Sunday lunch, but they were all being heated by those kind of copper light bulbs. You know, and everything was just lukewarm and fizzy. But my grandmother Gladys just loved fizzy food. It was just, if it was cheap. But normally she'd come down and she'd smuggle in, you know, like a catering size, a family pack of crisps, and we'd have them instead, maybe a cup of tea and one Coke between us. So she'd use the facilities. Second World War saw Bexhill targeted by German bombers over 1,450 times. Mendelssohn, joint, I call him Messerschmitt, but his name was Mendelssohn, joint architect, the Warr Pavilion, 1935, yeah. A Jewish refugee, exactly as you suggested, from Nazi Germany. You come in here as well, John, there's a really lovely sonic illusion. If you stand in the middle of a dome, you won't get it on the microphone, but if you come to me and then just start singing or saying, Sister Susie, so just start speaking.
Oh my God, oh my Lord, that's incredible in here. That's amazing, isn't it?
And the kind of echo and the sibilance is normally, it ricochets around. So it sounds like you're on stage with a microphone going, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, I don't get...
Pulled out all the stops here. Don't get this in any of your other walks, do you, John?
You don't get this in Leytonstone.